Hello guys, welcome to yet another mixing tutorial. It's been a crazy week and it's gonna get even crazier. So let's go. I'm gonna explain to you how I got the tones in my cover of Freefall from the new NORTHLANE album. Man, I love tapping riffs. They're fun, but they're not easy to mix. I'll show you some of the things I did. First of all, our usual mix bus processing, the usual suspects. So this is my mix bus compressor, and let's see how much it's compressing today. Super light. I wanted the mix to be more open than usual. Our multiband compressor, is he correcting our frequency spectrum, or are we nice and flat? Let's see. Usually the multiband compressor likes to correct my use of too much mid-range on the guitars, but today we seem to be doing just fine. It's just giving us a little bit more of a frequency balance, but not that correction I usually get on this band. Oh boy, that's a riff. Okay. Then into our limiter, which I suspect is working harder today. Let's look at it. So almost constantly there's a little bit of limiting going on at all times. And let's see how much RMS we're hitting. So about minus 5.5, a pretty loud mix. A very fast character, which means fast release and fast attack as usual, which is what I like on my limiters. The drum sound, I'm not gonna go over it again. It's the Talking Heads drum sound, so go there to watch the full breakdown of the drum sound. I basically can't afford to mix an entirely new drum sound from scratch when I'm going for these fast covers, so that's why I've been reusing the same drum sound that works well with NORTHLANE songs. For those of you that don't know yet, it's a blend of the Invasion and of Modern and Massive. So Invasion for the kick and the cymbals, and Modern and Massive for the snare and the toms. Oh, and a China from Superior Drummer. The best China on earth, irreplaceable. In case you're wondering, it's the Metal Foundry China, the 19-inch Sabian AA Extreme. So good. So yeah, Talking Heads tutorial to get that drum tone. Let's move over to thick ass bass. Bass has been my recent favorite for the past week. It's the Will Putney STL tonality with the Laugh Tracks preset from the Laugh Tracks album from the band Knocked Loose, which is a very grindy, not grindy, but grimy bass tone. This is what it does to your DI. That's nasty. I just love it. It blends so nicely with guitars. What I find that it's missing is that it could have a little bit less of that big fat low end and more pick attack. So I balanced the top end and the bottom end. Instead of using an EQ, I did it with this plugin, which is a plugin designed especially for bass, where you can balance your low end and top end individually with different sliders, which is very cool. This is the balance change it did. Quite drastic. I boosted the top end a lot. And then an EQ to help it fit with the guitars. Getting rid of sub low end beneath 55 Hertz. This is the place where the kick sub hits, and I don't want the sub frequencies from the bass to conflict with the kick sub-frequencies. A dip on an annoying frequency right here. I didn't like it, so I took it off. And a move I don't usually do. So this is a boost at 350. Let's listen to this frequency range so you can see what it is. This is the kind of frequency one could call muddy, even. So, and it sounds so good when it's scooped. So you might ask, why did I boost it? Well, to make a relationship with the guitars. Listen to the bass scooped. Now, bass scooped with the guitars. Pretty good, but watch as I boost this frequency. Can you hear the difference in fullness of the whole sound? It's quite a strange thing. Play around with your 300 range, 400 range on the bass, because it might be what you're lacking in the guitars. If your guitars feel thin, which these don't, but even then, oh man, that's so good. I love this part. Let's talk guitar tone. So actually, there's some explaining to do. Only the last riff is recorded on my 8-string Schecter. This is the, excuse me, this is the 8th string. All of the other parts that don't hit the low note are recorded with the 7th string. That's why you see such a big difference from this to this. You can tell how my 8th string is really, really bassy and thick. When you run it through the amplifier, the difference is between this and this. So yes, I prefer the sound of the 7th string, of course, because of the Seymour Duncan Omega that it has, which literally does the gent thing. Listen to this DI. That's just perfect. The amp that I chose, I'm on the Will Putney Sim. I chose the 5150 amplifier, and then I selected different cabs and I landed on cab 3. I thought cab 3 sounded the coolest and most mid-rangey. And the EQ moves right here, getting rid of the subs again. Let the kick fill in this part, the bass fills in this part, and the guitar can fill in this part. A boost at 600, same philosophy as the bass, to try to get more note out of the guitar. If I boost it, you'll see how the guitar becomes less heavy and more almost melodic, just with a frequency boost. Of course, if you boost it too much, you start hearing that honk, that which we don't want either. Then we're removing some scratchiness. That's right here in the 2K area. The original tone being a bit too scratchy. And a high pass filter at 6K to get rid of the fizz. Subtle difference, but it's there. That's solid. Let's take a look at these lead sounds. So, these are tremolo picked, which always sounds funny on the DI. Then I'm using Toneforge Jason Richardson on the lead amp, which sounds very aggressive by itself. So immediately I drown it in reverb, 95% wetness, and about 10 seconds of reverb. That's immediately a much better lead tone. Then we need to EQ it. It has too much low end and too much treble. So we move bass up to 200 Hz and we cut down treble down to 4K. Always important. And this delay is here for the stereo spread, which does a ping pong delay left to right, and also for the modulation. It gives it a big chorus. I'm gonna put it on wet and you can listen for it. That sounds pretty crazy, but if you blend it with the dry signal, gives it a very nice floaty feeling. As for the chords in the fast verse, same amplifier, but with very much reduced gain. I also engaged the lo-fi pedal, I'm pretty sure. Oh no, the lo-fi is on... It's lo-fi because I removed all of the bass. Then into the same reverb, but we're taking it back to 8 seconds and only 70% wetness, so you can hear some of the attack. The EQ again to remove bass and treble, cutting bass up to 200 Hz and cutting down treble to 6000 Hz. A delay for much the same reason, the modulation, but here it's way more wet so you can hear the bouncing of the left and right speaker. And then a little trick with a stock Reaper plugin. Since this was very much in the center, this lead, but I didn't want to choose whether I wanted it to go left or right. I used this little trick to make it wider, where I grab this stereo width plugin and then I remove the center image, and suddenly the sound becomes almost like it's double tracked, left and right. So listen for it. That's center, and I'm going to engage. It's subtle, but it helps it come out of the center. As for the lead in the gent part, it's the same elements as the first lead. So Toneforge Jason Richardson, our same reverb at 80% wet and 8-second decay. Filters again. So bass is cut up to 200 Hz and treble is cut down to 6K. The delay with a little bit less less modulation and a little bit less wetness at 25%. And yes, that gives you the bright lead. The only difference between this one and this one is that this filter is what's controlling how dark one is and how bright the other one is, which is pretty cool. Our synth, I managed to do the whole song with only one synth, which I'm very proud of. I made it work for bass and the chords. This is the Aeronaut pad from the Expand plugin. It's got both the bass and the chords. This is what it sounds like without my processing. And then on some chords. That works nicely, but it's a bit distracting. So I EQ'd it to get rid of the distractions. One of the distractions and destructions of the mastering chain is the low end, which isn't necessary. You got the bass doing those notes. Then this mid-range is where the guitars should be, so it gets out of the synth. Getting some good high end in, some more mid-rangey high end, and getting rid of the super fizzy high end at 12K. Listen to this one. It's very distracting, so I got rid of it. The limiter is here for dynamic consistency across the synth as it wobbles in volume. You can hear the limiter distorted a little bit as the synth gets louder and it has to compress down, but that's okay in the mix. The same stereo width trick, reducing the center image and boosting a bit of the wide image. It's subtle, but I love it. And this EQ is here to be automated. So let's look at a part where it is automated. Oh my god, I just opened the I just opened the screen recording software. I'm dumb. Let's see. Oh, here. In this verse, it was a bit too bright, so this EQ is here taking it down. And then back up. Oh, I did it again. So that's how I made one synth work for the whole song, is playing with the brightness of it on the EQ, the low pass filtering. The ending has this little fun part. Let me explain to you how I did this. This is basically the entire mix rendered to one file. And then, the dude that makes all this work is the Pixelator by Joey Sturgis Tones. Listen to it. You can totally destroy your audio with this and make it sound, well, pixelated. But then it just sounds bit crush. It doesn't sound lo-fi. So what I did is I EQ'd the low end out of it before I hit Pixelator, which helps. And then I EQ'd the high end out of Pixelator. Big difference and a very cool way to get a bit crushed sound. And then our usual explosions, of course. Very loud in this mix. I like the explosions very loud on this song, especially on this part. Listen for this one. very cool. I am very happy with this mix. I hope you learned something from me explaining the tones of yesterday's cover. Today's cover, oof, you'll see. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.